We do have
Yeah.
a couple calls
Oh,
of people who want
nice.
to talk to us. So you ready to talk to some folks?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, cool. So first, we're going to talk with Phoebe, who is calling in from the UK. Phoebe, you are live on Talk Heathen. What's going on?
Hello, Dan. Hello, Cynthia. Yeah, I'm having a couple of issues at work. I work as a support worker, and I've got a number of clients that I work with who are, best put, very religious individuals, and they try to push their religion onto me and my colleagues. And I, as an atheist, always feel very uncomfortable with, well, how do I push back against this? How do I stop these people who I'm supposed to be supporting in my job from being supported properly, because they keep
Can
pushing
you
their
give me an
religion on me and
example?
keep making it
Like,
all about. So
what exactly are they doing?
So I have a client who is Jehovah's Witness who tries to, every time I go around to see them, they try to spread the good word to me. So they'll give me literature. They will tell me that the Armageddon is coming. They will tell me that because I don't believe in their religion, I'm going to be in eternal damnation and I will be part of the death at the Armageddon. And it's quite difficult to be able to get down to the nitty gritty, but I can't really push back too much because, well, that's not my job in this case. But how on earth do I go around in this context?
Yeah. I feel like, Cynthia, I bet you have a good answer for this.
Yeah, actually, I had a very similar story
Mm.
to this. When I first got into healthcare, I remember meeting a young lady who heard me talk to my boss about my non-belief, and it was in a very light, way, because I don't know if it just came up in conversation. I think that she was reading the Joyce Meyer book or whatever, and I happened to say, oh, that's interesting, and then we just talked about it a little bit. And then the next day I had to work with this lady who was like super uber Christian, and we and first, like, we were just there for me just to get the ropes of the work that we were doing, because she was there longer than I, and she was going to give me some additional training. But and I tried to keep the conversation that we had like strictly on work, because I didn't really want to get into the whole, notion about having a whole conversation about, why am I not Christian. So it went on, as we went throughout the day, that she brought it up. She actually, said, well, why aren't you a Christian? And I was like, oh, damn it. I was not, I was not trying to get there today. But, since she asked me the question, I told her why. Basically I said, well, I was a practicing Christian for the majority of my life. I even studied to be a minister. However, as time went on, and I started to re-examine my faith, I realized that I had no good reason to believe in the God that I serve. That I said that I served. And as the more that I tried to find evidence for the existence of God, I found myself lacking. So it really put me into a whole thing about having to question all the things that I have been taught for the majority of my life to make sure that they were true. And then once I went through that, I had to put down my belief. And then I also remarked on some of the behaviors of the people in the church. They had a tendency to be kind of mean. They There was a lot of times, there was a lot of respecter of persons. If you weren't in leadership, if you weren't the pastor, then people had like less reason to really, respect you. They could get like a little bit, off-putting, and things of that nature. And could be very damaging to people, especially like if they were coming into the church, and let's just say that they had like lifestyles that were considered, um, like just like off color per se, or sinful in the Christian vernacular. Then a lot of times people, would start judging that person instead of like really embracing them in a loving manner. And I saw a lot of that in church, and it was it left a really bad taste in my mouth. And with coupled with that, along with my own, taking it back to like reason, why do I believe in this and I have no good reason to, I had to just like let it go. And the crazy thing about it is that the person that I was speaking to only heard the issue concerning the people in the church, and not why I first said that I put down belief in the first place, because I had no good reason to believe. There was no, we already know that the notion of God is unfalsifiable. There is no empirical test that we can apply to the concept of God to say unequivocally that this particular entity exists or not. And so I remember at the end of our discourse, she invited me to speak to her pastor, and I said, I'll think about it, and it kind of really bothered me for the simple fact of the matter is that we're not here to talk about these things in the first place. We're here to work. We're
Yeah.
here to do the work that we're doing. And my whole pushback a lot of times with people like that is, especially when I don't necessarily feel like getting bothered or being in those particular conversations, is, I remind them that this is what we're trying to do, is do our job. We're not engaging in these particular discussions. If you want to have that discussion, maybe we can do this after work or sometime, but this is not the time and place to do it now.
A lot of stories and advice there, Phoebe. What do you think?
It will definitely be very useful to at least bring those kinds of things up in the team meetings that I'm going to be having with other colleagues. And it will certainly help with the approach to some of these more reticent clients, I think is the best way to put it. But I do think that making clear to them that, okay, we're here to do a job and so on, is probably the best way forward, but it's just trying to strike those balance. And it sounds like Cynthia had to strike a very good balance with what she was doing, and it's going to definitely be very helpful to me when I go back into work tomorrow.
Well, good.
I
Good.
hope so, Phoebe.
I hope so too. I don't think I have anything to add to that, honestly. I think Cynthia's take and advice there is pretty much the same, I would say, right? You just have to firmly establish boundaries sometimes. And that's not just obviously for your religious beliefs, but that's for a lot of personal things that we try to keep in our work culture, like, purposely distinct from our personal lives, right? So it's what you got to do. And the more that you can empower yourself to enforce that, the more you can influence other people and encourage them to do the same thing, right?
Absolutely. And I say, at the end of the day, I'm there to talk to you about your living situation. I'm not there to talk about your, as one person, as my Jehovah's Witness said, I need to enhance your spiritual food. And it's like,
no, you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I don't think so. Well, Phoebe, I think hopefully we covered enough ground with you there. I appreciate you calling in.
You most certainly did. Alrighty.
Perfect. Well, yeah, thanks for calling in again. And Cynthia, thanks so much for giving such a great response to that.
Oh, thank you. And thank
that
you
inquiry.
for calling, Phoebe.
Yeah, thanks, Phoebe, for giving us that call. I'm reminded of, in my last career, I helped in also doing a type of family services. And I got one call from a woman that was I think she was upset about some pricing issues or something, and really wanted me to like go over some prices for some particular services and stuff. And I just remember mid-sentence she just cut me off and was saying, "Do you believe in Jesus?" And I was just like,
oh my God.
These calls are like recorded and stuff. My manager will listen to them sometimes, and I don't want to be too too activist or anything, right? But it's just like, well, I don't know how super relevant that is to this conversation. I think I said something like that. I was just like, I have no idea where you want to go with that, but look, let's focus on this other thing here, right? It's like, it's kind of awkward as atheists, especially in areas of the world where non-belief is still kind of a taboo, like it is in a lot of the US. And kids I talk to sometimes too, they'll just randomly bring up Jesus and they'll ask like what I think about it. And you kind of have to be very careful, very careful when you're not part of the, cultural norm in these areas, right?